happened. We all recall in the Olympics where the term we're supposed to use is transgender. There is no such thing. It's a fantasy term. It was a man dressed as a woman competing in the women's race and winning. And I commented then, I felt so horrible for the third place woman finisher, who, of course, gets nothing. So, you know, and then a few weeks ago, we had the girl who's hopped up on testosterone, pretending to be a guy, but still competing with girls, setting all the records and winning her weight class, her weight classification. Yeah, her. But hopped up on testosterone. And so the next of the insanity is a weightlifter for New Zealand. And here is the image that was put all over the place. This is, that's a guy, okay? I've seen lots of guys with that same type of pattern baldness. That's a guy. And muscles of a guy, bones of a guy, that's a guy. But that's allegedly a woman setting all sorts of new records in the women's category and winning and competing and stuff like that. Now, you and I know that's a guy. If you took blood from that individual and had a test done, a chromosomal test done, without telling anybody what this was about, just chromosomally, is this a man? Is this a male or a female? The answer would be inarguable. This is a male. XY is the chromosome pairing versus XX for the female. But we live in a day where where reality itself has now been subjected to the ultimate authority of man. So that if between your two ears you think something, allegedly it is. Now, this kind of thinking cannot survive for a matter of seconds in a conversation. You saw, what's that guy on Fox News that's got a program now before O'Reilly and Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson had some Democratic operative on before I went overseas. And he just wiped the floor with them. It was easy because it's not a rational position. So if I feel like I'm a 7'4" tall Chinese female, then you need to treat me as a 7'4" tall. Will you look up at me? Will you speak Chinese to me? Will you take me out to dinner? I mean, it's just, and that's why you see in the universities, they won't debate this. They just shout it down. They engage in acts of violence. They shout people down. They shut down anyone who would converse about this or try to talk about this because they can't win debates because it's not a rational position. You can tear it apart in seconds because it's a fantasy. It is insanity. But it's a theological thing. And because it's not being treated theologically, then you're not getting much in the way of meaningful response to it, as far as the worldview is concerned. This is about man pretending to be something that he's not. And it's the vacuum. It's the vacuum into which something has to flow. Because in the history of Western thought, God had the center place. God was sufficient, epistemologically speaking, to function at the center, defining everything else. Once man kicked God out, well, the problem is man's not sufficient to do that. And you end up with incoherence and knowledge chaos in all of man's experience. But as this rebellion, and it is rebellion, grows and grows and grows, then now we have this absurdity. And, you know, it's one thing to point out, yes, this is the end of women's sports, and it is. Why would you put out the effort to become an Olympic level sprinter in the 400 meter? Why would you remember that woman? What was that woman's name in the Olympics this year that just won almost every female event? She was actually a woman, and it was great. I mean, she'd be done and out of the pool doing interviews before anybody else got done. I mean, it was just that dominant a performance. However, if you took pretty much any qualifying male in the same events, she wouldn't beat them. They'd beat her. And she's the best in the world. So what does that mean? That means that testosterone's a good thing when it comes to sports. That's all. And that's why we had men's categories and women's categories. So there could be fairness. So there could be, but why would you bother training to become a swimmer or a sprinter or a weightlifter when all you have to do is just have some dude say, I'm a female, grow a ponytail, and there you go. You're done. You're not going to be winning anything. You're not going to, there's no gold, silver, or bronze for you. And I even saw it while I was finding this image. They talked to a female weightlifter, and she was sort of like, it needs to be fair. And so there should be like a third category. You should have male, natural female, and other. Thanks. Nothing like getting us in trouble over there. Yeah, well, yeah, right. And of course, that, you know, logically speaking, that's exactly what you have to say. Yes, that women should get to compete against women who were born as women. That's the only fair way to do it. And they shouldn't be hopped up in testosterone, and that's otherwise you just. But okay, that's easy. But that's not the real problem here. I mean, that's a byproduct, but the real problem here is theological. It is reality-based. And I just want to, I believe this is a hill to die on, if you understand that terminology. I do not believe that it is an option for a Christian to capitulate to the pressure. And in New York State, in state government, if you don't use the chosen pronouns, huge financial penalties. In other words, according to New York State, you must lie about someone's gender. The science says X, but if the person says Y, then you have to go with Y. You must lie. And it's a worldview that obviously has no room for someone to say, excuse me, but they don't get to do that. Only God gets to do that. Oh, no. And so here's what I'm saying. This transgender movement, which, did you notice? It exploded the day after Obergefell. Did you notice that? It exploded the day after Obergefell. Up till then, all the focus was on loving homosexual relationships. And now it's guys have to be able to use the girls' bathroom. Obviously, they weren't going there before Obergefell. but now they won Obergefell. They got to destroy marriage. And next thing to do is to destroy everything that could possibly build a meaningful family unit. What I'm saying is this. It is not only irrational, untruthful to refer to that man as a woman, it's evil. It's evil. Now, how you don't hear anybody, you don't hear almost anyone saying that. You get people who haven't thought these things through that just have a natural reaction and react out of bigotry or hatred or whatever. There are terms we shouldn't use just simply because they automatically reflect upon the truth in a negative fashion. But look, there comes a point where you have to say, you are demanding that I lie. I couldn't help but think, sorry, Star Trek analogy coming for those of you who want to just tune out. But, drat it all, I forgot. I'm sorry, I forgot to bring the Borg sphere. It's at home somewhere. I know right where it is. I know exactly which bag it's in, but I haven't put my bags away yet. So, but I need to bring my Borg sphere. I'll put it right over next to the Borg cube. Anyway. And by the way, thank you. I have yet another mug. By the way, giving me mugs while traveling is dangerous because they're hard to get home. I had to try to get 2 mugs home. I got them home, but it ain't easy. And so there I am on a bike singing Mighty Fortress is Our God, Our Bulwark Never Failing. I'm going to London. And this was made for me to commemorate my March trip to March 2017 trip to London. So I wanted to thank the folks for that very much. What was I talking about? Oh, I don't know. Yes, I'm sorry, Jimmy. Nothing I can do about it. The live stream is a wreck today. Keeps stopping and pieces missing. We reset the modem. I don't know what it is. Sorry, but hopefully it's recording. We've had problems with that before too. So I apologize for that. Every time this happens, you get hold of the internet people and, we didn't do this right. No, we didn't do that right. And then everything starts working and now the monitor's gone and whole thing's crashing all around us, burning up. There we go. So I will just attempt to pretend. I'll just minimize Twitter so I won't see that. I'll minimize the channel because they're whining about it in channel, and we'll just try to get stuff done. And you'll just have to watch it later on, and we'll just hope that a certain large internet service provider will get their act in gear. We called and complain regularly, but there you go. Anyways, Star Trek analogy here. I don't remember the name of it. I didn't have time, really didn't take the time to look it up. But there was a Next Generation episode. And so Next Generation was the late 80s, early 90s. I forgot how many years it was on. But this just shows how fast things have changed, because I don't think you'd have this episode anymore. But if I recall correctly, Picard was captured by the Cardassians or something. It was sort of a cross-link to the other series and DS9. And they put something on him that would cause just intense pain. He did it a little bit better than Kirk and the guys did in the original one. Remember that one where the women captured them and put those belts on them? And that was really bad. Anyways, but it's hard as an actor to pretend like you're in a massive amount of pain unless you've had kidney stones. Then you can just channel that thought and then it works real well. Anyway, this Cardassian guy, behind him were 4 lights. And he kept demanding of Picard, there are 5 lights. How many lights do you see? Well, there are only 4 lights. And he'd zap him with this thing, and he'd be rolling around the floor, and he just, day after day, the torture and the pain. And right when he's about to get rescued, he's writhing on the ground, looking up. And I think he says, once he gets rescued, he says to Riker or something like that, he says that the frightening thing is, I was to the point where I could see 5 lights. And the idea was, why not, from the perspective of our society today, why not just go, yeah, you say there's 5 lights? Cool. No problem. You identify as a 5-light person? I'll join you in that. No worries. There's no objective truth. Doesn't matter how many lights there really are up there. Objective truth doesn't matter. And that's where we are today. And I say to you, as a Christian, it does matter. It matters whether there are 4 lights or 5 lights. And it matters whether that's a man or a woman. There is an objective reality. And I know the psychobabble, and that's what it is. It's psychobabble. That sex and gender are not the same thing. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. In a functioning society, in a society filled with adults, in a society that wants to continue on for any meaningful period of time, it does matter. And so I think this is a hill to die on, in the sense that when the society demands that we engage in fantasy, that we lie, that we are untruthful, then we have to say, I can't do that. And I won't do that. And that is truly, I think, where we are. And so when you see these things, most of us just roll our eyes and go on, but you need to understand, this is the forefront of this movement, where you must think as we think. There was an article, Andrew Sullivan, this was from March 16th. Over the weekend, Andrew Sullivan wrote an essay comparing the progressive intellectual movement known as intersectionalism to a type of secularized religion. That's curious because Sullivan defines the movement not only by its ritual and liturgical practices, but, in my own summary, in its willingness to function as an agent of absolute judgment against dissent in the present. I recommend you read the entire essay, which is excellent. His essay comes as a result of recent mob violence at Middlebury College, where students protest the presence of Charles Murray, whose research has resulted in controversial findings and interpretations. Here's Sullivan's description of intersectionality. Intersectionality is the latest academic craze sweeping the American academy. On the surface, it's a recent neo-Marxist theory that argues that social oppression does not simply apply to single categories of identity, such as race, gender, sexual orientation, class, etc., but to all of them in an interlocking system of hierarchy and power. And here's how he elevates intersectionality to the level of religion. It is operating, in Orwell's words, as a smelly little orthodoxy. And it manifests itself, it seems to me, almost as a religion. It posits a classic orthodoxy through which all of human experience is explained, and through which all speech must be filtered. Its version of original sin is the power of some identity groups over others. To overcome this sin, you need first to confess, that is, check your privilege, and subsequently live your life and order your thoughts in a way that keeps this sin at bay. The sin goes so deep into your psyche, especially if you are white or male or straight, that a profound conversion is required. Like the Puritanism once familiar in New England, intersectionality controls language and the very terms of discourse. It enforces manners. It has an idea of virtue, and it is obsessed with upholding it. The saints are the most oppressed, who nonetheless resist. The sinners are categorized in various ascending categories of demographic damnation, like something out of Dante. The only thing this religion lacks, of course, is salvation. Life is simply an interlocking drama of oppression and power and resistance, ending only in death. It's Marx without the final total liberation. It operates as a religion in one other critical dimension. If you happen to see the world in a different way, if you're a liberal or libertarian or even, gasp, a conservative, put in there Christian. If you believe that a university is a place where any idea, however loathsome, can be debated and refuted, you are not just wrong, you are immoral. If you think that arguments and ideas can have a life independent of white supremacy, you are complicit in evil. And you are not just complicit, your heresy is a direct threat to others and therefore needs to be extinguished. You can't reason with heresy, you have to ban it. It will contaminate others' souls and wound them irreparably. And what I saw in the video, this is now referring to the Charles Murray incident, what I saw in the video struck me most as a form of religious ritual, a secular exorcism, if you will, that reaches a frenzied, disturbing catharsis. When Murray starts to speak, the students stand and ritually turn their backs on him in silence. The heretic must not be looked at, let alone engaged. He ends with this indictment. This matters, it seems to me, because reason and empirical debate are essential to the functioning of a liberal democracy. We need a common discourse to deliberate. We need facts independent of anyone's ideology or political side if we are to survive as a free and democratic society. Well, I don't know that we're going to be perfectly honest with you. And of course, from a Christian perspective, this is all theology. The secular conservatives who recognize the insanity of our society right now, because they've abandoned the Christian worldview, don't have an answer for it. All they can do is bemoan it, say this is terrible, this is horrible, write books against it, but they have no solution. They have no way of dealing with this. And of course, you may say, well, what do you say? Well, at least I understand what's going on, and therefore I can look at it and go, that's judgment. And there is only one way to deal with judgment, and that is to call for repentance. See, the secular conservative, the secular libertarian, the secular liberal has no solution. Even look, the secular liberal can recognize the insanity of what's going on our college campuses. They brought it about, but now it's being turned upon them. It's grown another head, and it's this monster that they can't control. They created it, but they can't control it. And they have no solution to it because there is no such thing as repentance. Once you've got God out, what are you going to do from there? What are you going to do from there? I don't know. I don't know.